Next, please welcome Chief Executive Officer of OfferUp, Nick Huzar.
Turn down for what?
Thanks for having me here today. I'm Nick Huzar, CEO of OfferUp, and it's great to see a pretty good turnout considering it's 9:30 in the morning in Las Vegas. So I'm glad to be here. Today before we get started in talking about OfferUp, I really wanted to give you a brief kind of a summary of the company. And also, I guess my main point here today is to get you to kind of reimagine what it means to be a local marketplace. So a quick snapshot of OfferUp. OfferUp is the leading mobile marketplace in the U.S. If you look at last year, we had about $14 billion in transactions that occurred on our platform. We also had about 35 million downloads in the U.S. alone last year. And our average user spends about 23 minutes a day on OfferUp. And for perspective, that's about the same amount of time people spend on Snapchat and Instagram. But before I get into OfferUp a little bit more, I wanted to kind of articulate the point that I mean by reimagining an industry. And so if you look at telephones, for example, we've kind of had 140 years of incremental change. And then all of a sudden, the smartphone came out, the iPhone came out, and you can do 1,000 different things on this device, from maps to how we communicate to all the different apps that are available. And by the way, you can also make a phone call from it. But what about how we transport things? I think the first big massive shift was going from the horse and buggy to the Model T. But Henry Ford didn't look at the horse and buggy and say, hey, let's just make this a little bit better. He completely reimagined what it meant to move things around. And as a result, cities changed, how we work changed, how we all, the whole ecosystems changed because of the automobile. And then I'd say we've had about 118 years of incremental change in the automobile industry. You could argue that electronic cars is a big step forward, but I wouldn't call it really a radical shift. I think we're at the beginning of a major shift, and that is autonomous vehicles. I think because of autonomous vehicles, we will dramatically change what we do in between work and our homes. No longer will you sit in the car on vacation and have your kids going, Daddy, are we there yet? And be throwing food in the back seat, telling them to be quiet. No, you'll hang out as a family, and you'll use that time. Maybe after a long day at work, you'll take a nap on the way home and coming home feeling refreshed. So I think in our lifetime, very soon here, we're going to see this radical shift, and this is what I mean by reimagining an entire industry. In the same way, both my co-founder, Arian Van Vielen, and myself, we didn't come from a marketplace background. In fact, we were untethered in our views of what it meant to be a local marketplace. And 6.5 years ago, I think we made a few assumptions. One was everyone will have one of these devices in their pockets. And then the other one was that cameras would continue to get better. And so far, both those trends have been true. And we don't really view what we're building at OfferUp as a place just to buy and sell goods for everyday people or even just small retailers. We really think of what we're building as a platform that can transform local ecosystems, and it just happens to be powered by a device that's in all of our pockets. And the first question we asked ourselves when we started OfferUp was, why do things sit? A quick show of hands, how many people have things in their homes that are not using, that are just sitting there? Okay, that's a huge, the vast majority of us. And so, but there's plenty of places that are out there. There's plenty of places you can go to today to sell things. So, why did most of us, raise our hands? So I think what we can see online today is just the tip of the iceberg. But again, today I don't want to talk about what we can't see. I want to talk about what we can't see. And for those that raise their hands, don't worry, you're not alone. In fact, there's 130 million households in America that have on average about $7,000 of unused stuff. The average American household with a two-car garage, about 25% of those homes, those people can't park in their garage. And it's glorified storage units, basically. So, the question is why? Why did most of us raise our hands in here? My clicker's having issues. Okay, there we go. We believe it's friction. It's really our strong belief at OfferUp is that friction is what keeps us apart. You walk by the golf clubs that are sitting in the hallway, and eventually you move them to the garage, and then they sit there and collect dust forever. And so, our belief at OfferUp is, how do we simplify that process? And it's really two core pillars as a business that we focus on. One is simplicity, and every day we obsess over creating a simpler experience for buyers and sellers. And the other one is building trust. And building trust in the marketplace is extremely difficult, especially when you're dealing with millions of transactions. But it's a very core purpose of the company. So every day, our singular focus is to build the most trusted and simplest marketplace that we possibly can. So I wanted to give you a few stories to kind of articulate the point here. I met this gentleman about a year ago at my co-founder's son's 6th birthday party. And he travels every year to Yosemite. He likes to take photos. And leaving SeaTac out of Seattle, he dropped his bag and shattered his lenses. And so, as you can imagine, he's mad the whole flight there. He's trying to hurry to get to Yosemite. He's going camping. And so when he lands, though, first thing he thinks about is maybe I can find something on OfferUp. So he opens up the app, and he actually finds that there is the same lenses he needs for his camera en route to Yosemite. So he engages using our built-in chat feature with the seller, finds it's conveniently en route to Yosemite, and ends up buying the lenses, just kind of veering off the freeway, not that far from what he's on his way to Yosemite. And that picture actually in the background is what he took with those lenses. And so, again, if you think about the world and what we have in our pockets these days, that's only possible now. Leveraging maps, leveraging communication, all this stuff that's built into OfferUp, he was able to do and just basically go on about with his life. We're also helping to reimagine retail. We have quite a few small merchants that are on the OfferUp platform. This man here, he goes by the name Big Bob. I don't even know his real name. But he found out about OfferUp about 2 years ago, and he posted 6 items. And he sold those fairly quickly. And Big Bob had been retired, and he said, man, there seems to be an interesting opportunity here. I wonder if I can sell more things. And so if you fast forward to today, in the last 2 years, Big Bob has sold millions of dollars in inventory. He now has a 70,000 square foot warehouse, of which 100% of what he sells is all via OfferUp. You can see there, it looks like it's kind of like a mini Costco there. But he has no physical retail store. He literally has a warehouse with a door that opens, and people come in and buy things from him. And one of the other points I think that's also interesting is we're really creating a platform that we think serves a much bigger purpose, where we're empowering people to be entrepreneurs. I actually sold a beat-up pine table that I had that my kids destroyed. It looked like a bunch of goats had trampled all over it. And I was trying to give it away. And this was about 1.5 years ago. And I met this young man named Kelvin. And Kelvin, as I'm loading this table into the back of his truck, ask him how often he uses OfferUp. And he says, all the time. I make $6,000 a month on it. And I was blown away. I didn't tell him who I was. But I asked him, I said, well, what are you doing? And he's a starving college student down at a university in Seattle, and he has a pickup. And so he uses that pickup to find things that are either cheap or for free, and then he fills up one of those massive shipping containers every month. And that container gets shipped off to Africa every month, and they pay him $6,000 to fill one of those containers up. And so I don't know about most of you here, but I barely had enough money for beer in college, let alone $6,000. So I think it's a really impactful thing when I met him to realize that we were helping somebody to better themselves, and all he basically needed was some entrepreneur spirit and a pickup truck, and he was able to make that happen. And these are just a few of the millions of stories that happen on OfferUp all the time. And and our big belief and the thing we've always obsessed over since day one was liquidity. And we know that liquidity equals success. And the reason that we are the dominant player in every market in the country is because people tell others about OfferUp. We have strong network effects, and when sellers come into the marketplace, there's buyers, and buyers can discover what people are selling nearby, very easily. And because of that, people find exactly what they're looking for. As I mentioned, people spend 23 minutes a day just discovering what people are selling in their local communities. And because of that, the average seller will actually post about 42 items in their first 2 years. And keep in mind, we're not mostly a power seller-driven company. This is everyday people like you and me. And as a result, OfferUp, we feel, is really becoming a part of people's everyday lives. They use it often. They use it, standing in line at a Starbucks. They use it, in the car. They use it at, hopefully not when they're driving. But my point being, it's something that people engage with in a much different way, I think, than they have, historically. So I won't go on much longer, but what I would say is our team is extremely proud, I think, of what we have already built. But we feel in many ways it's still day one at OfferUp. And we're really excited to reimagine how all of us will soon buy and sell in our local communities. We think the future looks much different than what it does today. And we're just really excited to see the progress that we've already made. Thanks for the time.